I'm Kelly Lewis.
And I'm Tiffany Jones, and we're your Revenue Insiders.
If you're enjoying the Revenue Insiders, we'd love your support. Follow us, rate, and leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Your feedback helps us grow and reach more listeners like you. Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on when you're joining us. We are here today recording our new mini-series all about AI disruptors, specifically in the go-to-market space. We've got two special guests here. We've got Varun, representing CEO of Yoodli, and we've got Nick, Global Manager of Enablement at Databricks. So welcome both of you.
Kelly, thank you. It is an honor to be here. I've never done any joint podcast webinar with a customer. So I'm excited and I'm terrified. Nick, let's see how this goes.
In the same boat. I have never done a podcast with a vendor, but yeah, I'm excited as well to see how it goes.
We're doing an Ask Me Anything. So this is going to be a fun one. We're going to put Varun, vendor, in the hot seat, ask the right questions, hear from Nick about his experiences. We know that the AI world, especially in the go-to-market space, is very overwhelming right now. There's a lot of noise out there. So hopefully this episode will get you an introduction to a new vendor and hear what they're all about. So with that, Varun, if you could give us a little bit of background about who Yoodli is and what problems you all solve in the go-to-market space.
Yep. First off, it's an honor to be here. Kelly, thank you so much. Backstory on Yoodli is we started as Grammarly for Speech. The macro vision is how do we help billions of people speak with confidence? This could be at a roundtable discussion, a speech, an interview, due to speaking what Duolingo has done to language learning, or what Strava, Peloton, Apple Health have done to fitness. That's very much Isha, who's my co-founder, and my why. On the enterprise side, think of us as an AI role-play simulator. Role plays for seller onboarding, cold calls, manager training, partner enablement, pitch certification, media training. You have it. And we are fortunate to be working with Databricks on all, if not all, of those use cases.
Amazing. Okay, so Nick, Databricks has a powerhouse of an enablement team. You are obviously a thought leader in the enablement space. Can you give us just a little bit of background on you? And then we're going to jump into some questions about your experience with Yoodli.
Yeah, sure. So I'm on the global enablement team at Databricks. So our team kind of it's broken up. We have our global enablement team under John Shea, and what Databricks does really well, what I've been really impressed with, is aligning on a shared vision and like breaking those up into go-to-market goals. And John's team aligns very closely with whatever those like go-to-market priorities are. And so we have those programs set ahead of time, and so very aligned with those. And then we also have another like field enablement team. So we kind of are we centralize, package things up, making sure that we're aligned to whatever those priorities are. And then once we kind of package those up, we also then work with our field enablement team to scale it out and make sure that those individual business units are making sure that they're, tailoring and adjusting to that business unit specific needs as well.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm very familiar with that model, I think.
Kelly, can I add a couple fun facts about Databricks enablement, like as a vendor coming in?
Yes, please do. Please do.
Fun fact number one, we have never been grilled this hard in the vendor evaluation process. From like legal to InfoSec to like multiple rounds going deep into the admin flow. So it's more of an honor for us to be working with them. The second is Databricks' enablement. We're now working with many Fortune 100 companies. Databricks' enablement is just baller, to say the least. Like they've got world-class people, but also I've never seen sellers at a company be so motivated by enablement. Like this is publicly known. They have an event called DB Cup, which is this massive March Madness type like celebration of sales, which is awesome. And then the last thing to say is, Nick's being humble in his intro. He has just been grilling us. Like literally we open Slack and there are like 3 Nick messages on like something on the Yoodli side he likes or he wants change. So pumped to be here.
I always say those are the best customers. So I've been on both sides of this, both as a vendor in sales tech as well as a user of sales tech. And after being on the vendor side, I will absolutely say You love the customers. The A, grill you during the sales process because it makes you better. It makes you get more secure. And then you're obviously you're helping other enablers kind of align to what you need. So with that, Nick, first question for you, or official question for you is, why did you go to market for a Yoodli type solution? What problems was Databricks experiencing? What challenges were you trying to solve for?
All the problems that are probably very common to all the enablement folks. I remember one of the point of view questions that you were talking about. If there's a question that you would want to ask people as to why would they be investing in and trying to figure out how to scaling role play. I captured this quote from a research article. Or if you follow me on LinkedIn, I love to follow the evidence. This came from The Science of Training and Development: What Matters in Practice. So that's the name of the article if anybody wants to look it up. But they talk about how it's been, and I quote, they say, "It's been long recognized that lectures are an inefficient strategy for imparting new knowledge and skills. We know from a body of research that learning happens during the application and feedback components of a training." And I was lucky enough to be early in my career, be certified as an instructional designer. And the method that they taught me the framework was PAF, P-A-F, or presentation, application, and feedback. But the most important takeaway rule of thumb or principle that they taught me there was the presentation lecture aspect should be less than 20% of a training. The practice and feedback component should be at least minimum 80% of it. And when most enablers look back on the sessions or trainings that they have provided, oftentimes it doesn't match that ratio very well. And not necessarily out of a lack of effort or a lot of times there's just barriers. There's just too many challenges in the way of trying to scale that, right? There's timing constraints. And then there's also, how do we make sure that everybody gets enough practice? How do we make sure everybody gets enough feedback? And just knowing the research well enough that talks about how, if we really want people to not only really develop knowledge and skills, but then also to be able to apply it on the job, they have to have that realistic practice. And it's just been a historically difficult problem to try to scale. I've tried doing it in the past in very just manual ad hoc ways. It's just very tricky. And so when Yoodli got brought on, I was immediately excited, hence all of the Slack messages, but extremely excited about just to be able to just package things up and realistic scenarios and the tutors, which I'm sure we'll probably, touch on as well. And just to be able to scale that, just to making sure that everybody is getting the right or enough practice and enough feedback as we develop these sessions.
That's great. So obviously you had some specific problems you were trying to solve. I'm curious, when you think about what was the use case you started with, or what was the go-to-market initiative, you want to call it, or enablement initiative that you started with Yoodli?
The first one we started with was a competitive scenario. I won't say who it was, but there was, our competitive team came to us and they were like, "Hey, here's 5 things that every seller needs to know and how to position against this competitor." And when I was going through, the content and the learning material and the training, 5 things, it sounds similar, but it's not. Every single 5 things is difficult. It's complex. You can go deep into each individual thing. A lot of technical consideration. So it wasn't as simple as just remember these 5 things and you're good to go. You need to deeply understand each of these 5 things and be able to talk and converse about them and elaborate on them with customers as much as you can. So that was the first opportunity we had when Yoodli got brought on. It was a good opportunity where we used the AI tutor paired with the scenario. So
Nice.
we had the initial, we typically
so those
do.
of us who don't know what an AI tutor is, can you
Yes.
explain what that is within the Yoodli product?
Yes. So what we did have the original session where, live in-person training on the 5 things. But then post that, because again, one session, a one and done thing isn't going to be enough, especially with something complex. So the AI tutor feature, I love that Yoodli had developed this as well. We're able to upload all of our learning content into these coach bots, basically tell it, here's what you know. And also, and the tutor is also kind of already pre-prompted to be a tutor. So the scenario is is a little bit more informal, right? She has a more relaxed tone and is just there to trying to help you understand certain concepts. And you can direct that conversation, back and forth however you want. And so that was the first component of it. So it's like first you participate in the AI tutor experience. So making sure that you're developing your understanding of all of these 5 things. And Varun, I just saw, I think it was today, I just saw another grading criteria you can add is like actual knowledge, like specific knowledge checks. So I was excited to see that because we can actually then grade on how well they're able to demonstrate that they know what they're talking about. So just being able to move up beyond the traditional quiz questions and test scores is amazing in and of itself. And then once they feel like they have a good enough grasp, like going through the tutor experience, then the next thing, and we package this up all in like in a program, which you can do in the Yoodli experience. So you tutor, and then the next is the role play scenarios. So if there's any like learning designers out there, they're probably familiar with the idea of scaffolding, which is you want to make your learning easy by scaffolding it. Like imagine like building a ramp. And so you don't want to go just from the session all the way over to the role play. So that's what we really liked about the tutor. It's like, yes, they were exposed to this information and this content, but now they're going to go to the tutor and they're going to really understand it, and they can use that as many times as they want, however long as they would like to. And then once they feel comfortable and confident enough to be able to have that conversation, then they can go into the role play and have those role play scenarios as well.
Awesome. So I've seen a demo of Yoodli. I did not see the tutor feature. Is that unique to what you all do, Varun?
Yeah, I mean, the vision is role plays across the board. So you can go choose from a template of role plays, cold call, inbound, outbound, etc. Thanks to Databricks' feedback, actually, we introduced Tutor. Think of Tutor as the evolution of passive quizzes. Right? In the status quo, you'll do a quiz, and then at the end, the quiz will give you a score. With Tutor, it'll go back and forth, and you can use it in exam mode or in coaching mode, where either you get the score at the end, or it'll be like, Nick, try that answer again, or like, you didn't hit on talking point 1. Would you like to redo it?
That's amazing. So obviously Nick started with the competitive use case. And Varun, I'm curious, is that where a lot of your customers are starting, or is that a unique use case? Love to understand what other use cases you're seeing out there.
Yeah, it's a good question. In fact, no, most people will use us for standard pitch accreditation, right? I've got sales kickoff.
Okay.
Oh my God, we have a new VP of sales. We're introducing new methodology. We launched a new Gen AI feature. How do we get every employee on our team to speak in the same voice? As an L&D instructor, an instructional designer, or an enablement specialist, I am going nuts trying to organize like 30 different training sessions. So Yoodli typically starts with the sales kickoff, then the entire org gets exposure to us. And then after that, folks will be like, but wait, like I also need to coach managers on deal review. And I've got this like black belt specialist seller training. And we've got this different industry vertical. And I have a junior seller who's currently on a PIP. And that's when it spreads across the org.
Amazing. So Nick, you all started with competitive use cases. Where else are you taking Yoodli next?
We have it for our content library is slowly blowing up. So we've done demos, so you can share your screen and provide demos. We have done different types of discovery. We've just launched this industry specific like outcome map, in which tries to help tie and identify the business outcomes, the business objectives that they're trying to accomplish to our solutions. But that requires some discovery. It requires them even pulling up a resource and walking the customer through it. It's like you could prompt the scenario to understand what they should be pulling up and what they should be looking at and how they should be talking about it, what questions they should be asking during that. So right now it's a wide range of tutors, like early conversations, some pitches, cold calls, discovery conversations, you name it.
And Nick, what I love most about the Databricks use case, and we're seeing this with other large enterprises as well, there are, let's call it 20, 30, 40 enablement folks, each focusing on their own vertical. Yoodli is essentially their co-pilot. They can go run their training as they want. And that's been super interesting for us, because we'll have someone come up with, I've now made this scenario 25 times, Varun, can you please templatize that? And that's how something like an AI tutor will come to life.
So I won't lie. About 6 months ago, if you would have asked me about AI role play, I probably would have been pretty skeptical. There have been role play type tools, maybe they weren't using AI for years now. And they all felt very unrealistic to me. I'm a former seller, I'm a former sales leader. I put everything through that lens. And in my eyes, I was like, I don't think people do this. I like cool concept, but I don't know that I believe in it. I'm seeing it, I've heard from a couple of your customers, Varun, that this is working really well. What are you hearing and seeing in the industry and kind of where the maturity level is around adoption of AI role plays? Are we still really early? Are we getting more mainstream? Where's that at?
Yeah, it's a good question. We definitely get folks who are like, well, I checked it out 8 months ago. Why should I talk to you? Like, just give us a shot, watch the demo. First off, the Gen AI landscape is moving so quickly. Something that wasn't possible last week is now doable today. Second, I think folks across industries, right? You would imagine it to be just tech, but we are now working with pharma and healthcare and even banking are a lot more receptive to Gen AI because of the GPT revolution. One thing that's been working well for us is we are not heavy duty enterprise SaaS software that requires 3 months to implement. Right? At its core, Yoodli is a consumer platform, and hopefully you love it and you tell 3 friends to go practice and they can go sign up, a la Grammarly, Notion, Asana, etc. And I think because of the consumerization of it, everyone can quickly test out an AI role play and say, I get it. I have 3 more applications. Now can I get it to my a combination of things. I don't know if we are completely over the tipping point yet. There's some versions of Uncanny Valley. Everyone keeps talking about avatars. The industry's almost there, but not quite. And I think a lot of folks are like putting these half-baked avatars in just to get a check mark saying it's there. Our entire approach is let's make it as realistic as possible, but also fun. Like, let's not have sellers feel like they're like doing this little childish game just because AI has been thrown. So finding that balance has been really interesting for us.
Yeah, Nick, what is your seller feedback? What are you hearing from the individuals you're actually asking to go through the training?
Yeah, I'm not just tooting Varun's horn here because I send him the feedback. I send him screenshots of like the Slacks we get, but we've done a lot of testing with like our SMEs first, right? So we start with like who's going to be most critical of this. So if it's the competitive scenario, we send it to like our competitive team and be like, hey, see how this thing does. So both the tutor and the role plays so far, all of the feedback has been very, very positive that related to how realistic it was, how impressed they were by the level of like feedback that it was providing them, the accuracy of what it was providing. One of the SMEs that helped create like here's the 5 things you need to know, like called out, like sent a screenshot of like, oh, this was cool that I actually got this wrong, and it called me out on it. And so like little things like that. But as far as like however realistic it goes, it definitely is. It's passing that test. And I don't think that even like the avatar feature, yeah, to Varun's point, like make it feel as realistic as possible. If people are looking at that and it looks like a robot, it's just like, I don't know, it does something to your brain. Like you're like, this is weird. But when it's the camera's off and you're talking to it, it feels very real and very natural as well.
I mean, if you can get sellers to give feedback like that, that's huge. We're highly critical. Okay, so my next hard question, Varun, we're putting Nick in the hot seat, but you have to hear the answer. So when I think about when I buy go-to-market software, and we all know this, buyers hate risk. I have got dots all over my face from the sun. Sorry about that if you're watching this on camera. We hate risk. We're always concerned about what customer support is going to look like after we purchase something. Are we going to be set up for success? It's clear you're expanding your use cases. So it sounds like you've been successful. You're happy with what you're getting, but how has your support and customer success been as a customer?
Oh, it's been great. I mean, again, like going back to all the Slacks that I bombard them with, like I feel bad sometimes. I talk a lot with like Isha, the other co-founder, and I'm like, man, I feel bad that like she's like answering, like she's like my personal customer success person. I'm like, she has to be busy, like she's building a startup, and she's still like slacking me back about all my nitty gritty, like just like questions and like hopping on whatever time. So it's been, as far as like the customer success, they've been a great team to work with, super responsive. And also and even just like the product feedback. I know, like, I think that's part of the benefit of working with a younger startup like Yoodli, is they're willing to like invest and figure things out. And even if it breaks, they take that, like, there's no go fill out this form on the suggestion forum and see how many upvotes it gets, and maybe in like 6 years it'll get added. It's so like a lot of the features and functions that we've asked for is they've actually started to build for us immediately.
So I have a question for you, Varun, that's really interesting and specific a little bit to Yoodli compared to some of the other vendors we're talking to. You actually started off as a consumer product, and now you are working with giant enterprise brands like Databricks and Google. How are you thinking about that and balancing that?
Honest answer, I don't know. We're still figuring it out. Our running joke is we skipped mid-market entirely, right? There's this consumer product, and we suddenly got pulled into like Salesforce and Adobe and Databricks and like Ring Central, and we're working with a lot of really large companies. I don't know if we'll ever have the answer. Like Isha and I are really passionate about the consumer thing. Like we are doing Yoodli because we want to help kids in India speak with confidence for me. And for Isha, it's women who get talked over. And we see enterprise as a way to enable our dream. And not to say that enterprise is bad or good. Very clearly, we get our money from enterprise. We scale with the role play simulation piece. But the true vision is like, how do we make this Yoodli thing a household name? From a business standpoint, I think they actually work together really well. There's lots of product-led growth. I love the fact that an enterprise user will use us and say, oh my God, like, my son's working with a speech language pathologist. They should check out Yoodli. It's really cool. It keeps us very, very close to the product in that we can test changes instantly because we suddenly have several 100,000 folks hitting a new feature that Nick has just requested. So before we bomb it with Databricks, we get a little bit more feedback that's useful. And I think it allows us to just grow a lot more quickly. When someone at Databricks is like, I'm using this, God forbid, but they move and go to the next company, they can take Yoodli like within seconds.
I also think there's some benefit to, as enablers, and Nick, maybe you have some feedback here. It's really easy to bucket the type of people you hire in terms of skill set. And so if you're working with a couple of large companies, you're working with all people at maybe a similar level, but by working with consumers, you're broadening your ability to get learners at all levels that can help you across your entire enterprise. So Nick, I'm sure you're working with your SDRs all the way to your solution engineers, to your CSMs, to your AEs. And I think just having regular non-go-to-market teams using the product actually probably create some reality checks that you wouldn't have if it was just go-to-market teams.
Yeah, I could absolutely see that. I mean, because at the end of the day, it's users using the product. And obviously, there's going to be things that the business is going to care about, which I think Yoodli is able to cover. Because with tools like this, people try to throw every bell and whistle at it. It's really the main problems that I see it solving, especially with the new like knowledge grading, Varun, that you guys just added, was like bridging that gap. So it's bridging those gaps between like, most enablers are familiar with like the Kirkpatrick model of going from like level 1 reaction, level 2 learning, level 3, behavior. But there's a lot of kind of like gaps, in between those levels that need filled. So for an example, the way in which most businesses assess did they learn anything is through like a quiz or a test. And just reciting knowledge, knowing, even remembering just facts and terminology doesn't really fully enable performance or tell you whether or not they're going to be able to apply this on the job. It's when you go a step further into can they apply this knowledge, what they just learned, in a realistic scenario, like how they're going to need to apply it on the job. So are they making the right decisions? Are they saying the right things? Are they completing the right tasks? And that's something like, those are features that I think are available in the Yoodli platform. So on the business front, it's like good. And then again, on the user side, making sure it's friendly for all users. One of the first people I tested the tutor on was my 6-year-old daughter. And so again,
I love that.
She was like, she saw me, she was like, what do you do? Well, like she asked me what I was doing. And And I was like, she doesn't know what AI. I was like, I built a robot. Do you want to come? Like, and again, it's like the 5 things to know about this. She knows nothing about any of this, but is still able to have a conversation because the tutor was prompting her with questions like, where would you like to start? What do you know about competitor? And she's like, I don't know. Like, I don't know anything. Like, literally said that. And like, it was really cool to watch how the tutor was adjusting to her response. And so it would like bring it down a level and start asking her questions basically to try to pull things out of her. And then like based on her response was like able to, you know, give some responses against stuff she wasn't fully able to understand at all, but like it was just cool to watch her interact with it.
Hey, can I actually add to that, Kelly? I was
Yeah.
thinking about what Nick was saying in your former question, and how does consumer and enterprise play together? I think there are 2 more things that just came to mind. The first is, my God, load testing. Like, we just finished one of our biggest rollouts ever with a very large CRM who I won't name, but they use Yoodli to train their entire customer success team on like this new Gen AI strategy. There's one thing to have like cool tech that people will go use asynchronously. There's another for everyone to be on a Zoom call and press the practice button literally at once. Like, that breaks ecosystems of products. Luckily, because we have the consumer play, right? Like Toastmasters is using this with several million folks, and UW alone is using this with 40,000 folks. That scale helps us. And then the second is there's an intermediary step for us. So there's consumer, there's enterprise, but we're working with lots of coaching companies, right? Sandler Sales, Korn Ferry, Franklin Covey, Dale Carnegie, and they themselves have massive scale because they franchised out or they are working with hundreds of thousands of folks. So I think it all somehow just cross connects. And maybe in 2 years, I'm burnt out. None of this worked. We have no focus. I'm going home.
I doubt it. I see a brighter future than that. The other thing that, Nick, just as you were talking, I was thinking about some of my own experiences, and senior sellers are usually the least likely to volunteer to do a role play. The amount of excuses that come out of really strategic senior sellers, I mean, I've done it myself. I was there. And I think what is so hard about learning new messaging, objection handling, learning new competitors, especially in a practice scenario, is being judged by your peers. And so by using AI and an avatar to actually do this, it's creating a safe space so you feel really comfortable. You can test it before you're having to do it in front of a human, and you can do it in the comfort of your home. And so I do really think that we all struggle with getting adoption of messaging and adoption of these things. If you're giving them a safe space to do it, they'll more likely do it in the field a lot faster because they practiced it and they've actually done the practice because they're not scared of having to do it in front of their boss. They're doing it in front of an AI avatar and still actually probably in most cases getting better coaching because that AI avatar is not distracted by the 10 emails that they have sitting in their inbox about, approving discounts or whether or not they can join a sales call tomorrow. So I think having that ability is just so amazing. Okay, Nick, what is your favorite part about Yoodli?
Favorite part about Yoodli,
or working with Yoodli?
Working with them has been great. I'm just really excited about the potential of just being able to scale the practice and feedback components. Like, it's just always been a problem that I've been trying to solve. If anybody's familiar with the book Map It by Kathy Moore, that was something that I was trying to do. So the whole point of Kathy Moore is figuring out what do you want the people to do, right? Not what do you want them to know, but what do you want them to do? And then create little mini scenarios, put them in those scenarios and have them apply their knowledge, have them make a decision they need to make, have them perform a task they need to perform. And then you get the consequences, or you get the feedback in the form of natural consequences. That was always really, really hard and just difficult for me to facilitate without these AI solutions, right? There are ways in which I would do it. I would try to use Articulate to create these. I would actually have to build like what the people would say, and then if they said this, I would have to be like, here's the response. It was just like this whole mapping disaster. And so to be able to just rely on the AI, and it is reliable, where it just knows how to react and respond, and I don't have to worry about all that back end, has just been really exciting. So I'm really excited about that. I'm also very excited about the tutor feature as well.
Yeah, me too. Okay, Varun, what are you most excited for as you look at the next 6 months of Yoodli working with customers like Databricks, hopefully a lot more customers here? What are you most excited about?
I mean, first of all, just say this is, as a founder, this is my dream to hear Nick say AI tutor like 6 times on this. I'm like, oh my God, we're actually building something cool. Like engineering just shipped this thing. To me, it's folks often ask, oh my God, what happens when Gong releases this? And, Salesforce launches it. Like that's a big existential question. The bet we are taking at Yoodli is AI role plays is a very deep category. Let's build and own this category, and let's just make the best possible role plays that any seller or any GTM person can engage with, and let's have them live across the ecosystem. It embeds with your LMS, lives in your CMS, connects with your CRM, and it's totally seamless with all of the customization, but that you can do within a second, right? Like, let's train you on Sandler's upfront contract, and at the same time, let have Databricks have their methodology, and boom, go train, and you're good to go. So still TBD, but I think we're getting much closer.
You're definitely headed there. Nick, we already got your point of view question. Varun, I want yours. What do you want to say to the listener? What question should the listener ask themselves right now as they're driving to work, driving home, on a run? What question should they ask themselves to help create their point of view on this topic?
Question your existing stereotypes, especially about AI. I ask because I speak to so many folks who are like, well, I tried something a month ago, it doesn't really work. Or, oh, we already talked to someone else and, we had this experience. The industry is moving so fast and technology is moving so fast that be willing to constantly readjust your opinions of how tech works today.
I think that is a great question. And I think that we're all feeling like we'll get left behind if we don't do that. So I think we should. Well, thank you both, Nick. It was wonderful to have you here. Obviously, you and the Databricks team are a powerhouse. Varun, it has been wonderful getting to know you and Isha. Yoodli, you are building an amazing product and obviously amazing reference here in Nick. So thank you both for taking the time to join me.
Thank you. Thank you.
If you're enjoying the Revenue Insiders, we'd love your support. Follow us, rate, and leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Your feedback helps us grow and reach more listeners like you.